internet down here to make this work, right? I don't know if I can or not, but let me know if you see me. Let me know how I'm coming through. Let me know if you got audio. I'm just down here at one of the town squares in Querétaro, Mexico, and depending on the size of the town, there's different town squares, different sizes of town squares, and all that good stuff. And I just thought we'd talk about the town square a little bit because I think it's a really fascinating thing. So this is just a little stream for you subscribers, for those of you that tune in a lot. One of the things I'm doing with some of these, they don't clutter up the feed and the vlogs and stuff, is I'm actually making a feed and then making it unlisted later and just putting it in the live playlist instead of leaving it in the main feed for the video stream. So people are coming in really slow, which generally is a sign to me that I'm not getting a very good connection. So hey Eric, I see you in there. I see a couple of you in there. Let me know if I'm coming through clear, because I hate it when I do streams and they just don't work. But as I was saying, just down here in the town square, and I brought Sandra down for her Zumba. They're over there doing Zumba. That's who was on the poster image. And I just thought we'd kind of wander and look and talk a little bit, because we don't have, I don't know if it's always been this way. I mean, those of you that are older may remember when the town square, if it's Cam, Sean, everybody, Robert, howdy everybody. Hola Estados Unidos, hola Mexico, buenas tardes, soy Gavin, soy gringo. So I don't know if some of you remember if town squares in my lifetime, like the town square, unless there's an organized event, unless it's the farmer's market, there's really nothing going on. And in town squares, in Mexico, there's always something going on. People actually hang out, right? In Alfredo, where I was from, the town square would be like, it was a decorative, like a art project, right? They spent all this money decorating the town square, but with the exception of like an occasional farmer's market, it wasn't really a practical space. It wasn't really something anyone used. And yet every town in Mexico has a square. Larger towns, of course, have mini squares. This is one of multiple squares here. You can see it's actually pretty empty tonight. Because it's a weeknight. There's not a ton going on, but you see people down here playing with their kids. I'm just gonna walk, actually, down here, there's this public space. Sometimes you'll see people doing demonstrations or dancing up here. If we go downstairs, probably lost my feed when I went down into the basement. So, yeah. Maybe you probably just missed the best part, because all the girls down there were doing Zumba and Sandra was down there doing Zumba. So sorry guys. Yeah, there's like 20, 30 people down there, right? So just a normal evening of a town square, right? There's public spaces. You can look around here and you can see the people playing. And now if you come down here on a busy weekend, there's people all over this, right? Even on a weekday, sometimes there'll be just 100 people milling around down here. One of the reasons I decided we'd go live today, because it's just so quiet and we can just kind of talk and look around and take a look at things. But it's really cool. So the town square, I think, is really fascinating. You'll see vendors over there doing stuff. And if I go downstairs, everything I'll lose that signal real fast in the concrete. But sometimes there's a hamburger cart here. I mean, there's always just things going on, right? People playing, people interacting. And it's really sad, because I don't see this very much in the US anymore. It's not really a thing. Of course, we have organized event, and if you go to the playground at a certain time of day, there's people. But there's this concept here that I'm assuming at some point existed in the USA of the town square, and there's always something happening, right? There's always an activity. There's always people just going there to hang out. If you watch my video on Colombia, you'll see that we were in the town square, and there's just 1,000 people down there, and there's guys playing poker, there's people taking naps. I mean, it was just the way it was. And it's pretty cool the way the town square thing works. Usually the town squares are well maintained. You can see down there, they're down there doing their dancing, and You probably can't see much, but we'll do a vlog with Mariana is a friend of ours, and she teaches a Zumba class there. Thanks to sad. So, and I'm noticing that no one in this stream seems. I'm assuming at some point we had a more community mindset, less socialized government control. We go to events when they're organized by our churches or by governments or by profit organizations, right? Not just because most of the time. And I'm not saying that there's no places in the States where people go to hang out, skate parks and playgrounds and things like that. It exists to a point. There are some people that value that, but it's just the norm here. If you come down to the squares, this is one of the quieter town squares in town. This is not Centro. So if you go to Centro, it's a lot more touristy. You go to Centro on the weekend, there'll be 1,000 people hanging out in there, and just tons going on. If there's an event down there, good Lord, there's like 10,000 people in the square. Whereas this is kind of the community square, the quiet square, if you will, where it's not quite so intense and was buffering. We'll stop somewhere. You know, you can see people doing their thing. Let me, Hola, buenas tardes. You know, the squares where just the teenagers, not always just the teenagers. Here's a spot with some good light. Let me just see. There's actually good cell service here. They love their cell phones here. There we go. However, it must be getting hit hard today. We're getting close to the weekend and the towers are probably a little overloaded. I did a speed check before I started and I was afraid it would go for a little bit. So probably this one will actually look. I don't necessarily with stuff. So what I've started to do with some things is unlist the video. It's not the live stream thing. Now, some important, and I leave. Yeah, shoot me an email, whatever. And just chatting here. Again, totally random video. Took Sandra to Zumba. Here we are, just hanging out in the park, and that's the deal. Anything else we need to talk about before I go? I just want to talk about the town square. I was hoping you guys would have some. That's right, Bill, love your neighbor. I was hoping you guys would have some more input on the town square. Like, you remember when you were a kid, the town square was a thing, right? But maybe this hasn't been a thing for 100 years in the U.S. It's sad, because the community aspect. In the States, we get off work and we all go home and we play video games and we hide and we watch Netflix, right? Here, until sunset, the street is active. And I would walk more, but I keep losing signal, so that's kind of ticking me off. We'll try to walk. If you guys want to see another square, there's actually another like community square. This is more of a square. There's one over here that's more like a park, has a little soccer fields everywhere. Yeah, here, that's just the way it rolls. You don't have a soccer, but ice cream man, yeah, we have those too. The kids are always bugging me for the ice cream man. The ice cream, it's actually cheaper to buy ice cream from Tim. It's not a real big guys, but I'm having fun. I'll change the poster on this video when I'm done, because I can't actually show you the Zumba because there's no signal when I go down there. So I'll show you that in one of the vlogs later that I pre-record. We'll do some cool slow-mo of the Latino Zumba down here. I'm sure I can get the girls to do that. So I'm just walking. I'm just walking, doing a little. It's crazy when I see the level of control. And when we think of control, let me just say this. When we think of control in the USA, we think of actual restriction. We think of actual erratic government. And it's true. I mean, that's a very real thing. But there's something more. They've somehow of our lives. The concept that we're independent, that we do what we want. We go to places that are right. We go organized and we do things kind of. You know, here's a town. This is later. I'm pretty sure it's pretty cool. Anyway. Yeah. Well, wall here. I need to be in the open space. The problem is that the concrete everywhere. Everything's built of concrete. It's not quite able to. People have these perceptions, and I get that sometimes stereotypes are amusing and it's not the end of the world, but we have these perceptions of Mexico, right, that have been promoted mostly by propaganda. It's dangerous. It's where you go for cheap prostitutes. If you want cheap prostitutes, go to Washington D.C. That's where they are. I guess those are expensive ones. Maybe you got to go to your city council for the cheap ones. Hopefully I'm getting a better signal down here. It's opening up a little bit. I'm trying to get the park so we can see another park here while we're walking. But so there's all these things. Just remember, if you're being told something about Mexico, it's probably not true. There are no donkey shows. That's not a real thing. Whether it's happened once, I don't know. All your uncles from the 70s, 80s, and 90s love to tell you how they went to Tijuana and saw a donkey show and they were forced into it or whatever to watch it. Those are not a real thing. So, as far as I've been able to tell, and I have researched it, it does not exist anywhere. And the reality is, in this day and age, if it existed, there would be a video of it. In fact, let me know if you guys are still hearing me. I'm gonna drop one on here that's big. Hola, buenas tardes. You know how there's the rule. Does anyone know the 30-second rule of the internet? Okay? Anyone know the 30-second rule of the internet? Well, I think it's the 30-second rule of the internet, is that if you can think of it, there's porn of it. So everybody's talking to me about donkey shows, right? Not that I want to see whatever goes on supposedly at these, but everybody always claims they've seen a donkey show. Their dad, their uncle, right? I looked for this with the censored mode off, okay? I actually broke the 30-second rule of the internet. There are no videos of a donkey show. Now, the rule says if you can think of it, there's porn of it, right? You couldn't even find a video anywhere on the internet of it. I know this is a weird topic, but I'm trying to dispel like these myths that we come up with that we use to for how we perceive cultures. If you can't find a video of it, it doesn't exist. At least not in any sort of mainstream sense. Okay, let me know how the signal's going because I'm down here. I told you guys this video would be random and that we'd be kind of all over the place today. This is not meant to be the flawless experience here. We have the Exile show if you want good editing. This space I think will have some more signal. So I'm just looking around here. Hang on, let me flip it. Wrong way. You don't want to see that mug. Here we go. That's more like it. Okay, so people are just down here. Here's another park. Looks like they're playing soccer over here. This is just a normal evening. Honestly, it's a pretty quiet evening. This is more like a park and less like the town square. But yeah, they're playing soccer. They've actually been putting this fake grass turf in the fields here, which is pretty cool. So a lot of times they play soccer in the dirt fields and, there's probably 10 soccer fields. Here's the Pastor Tacos right over here. People having their tacos, doing their thing over there. All right. Just selling on the street. There's an Italika FT150. Brand new, that's about $1,000 motorcycle. It's made in Mexico. And that's an older one, but you can buy a brand new Italika for about $1,000 US. Here's another treat stand. People just doing their thing. There's the Taekwondo students. Yeah, this is the war zone they told you about. See over there? Over there's kids painting in the park. And the thing is, in the States we'd have like an event, right? We do this once a month, or there would be like family night in the park, right? Everything has to be orchestrated by government. Everything has to be told. We have to be told how to do everything. We don't seem to just think of it. Hola! we don't just seem to think of it for ourselves as much anymore. We don't have this kind of community aspect that we do quite the same, and it's pretty sad. But es muy linda. So, and of course in the schools, they'll have playgrounds and stuff too, and all that kind of stuff. But this is just a public space. You can see that the playgrounds are old. They don't always have these brand new, like $50,000 playgrounds. It's old metal swings and stuff, and people are having just as much fun on those as they do in the States. Well, probably more, to be honest, but there's more vendors over there. Dude selling candy out of the back of his Nissan. We'll just walk here. I'm trying to stay close here so that, and you know, I mean, one of my favorite states, the most tranquil states to me, is Utah, just because it's so beautiful. The corruption is still there, you know, but no, if Mexico would take back, because remember all these places were Mexico originally. If Mexico took back Texas, Texas might have some freedom again. If they took back Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada and Utah, you know, then they'd have the kind of the original Mexico back. So yeah, it's peaceful. It's muy tranquilo. Everybody's just cruising, doing their thing here. It's pretty nice. You have these littler kids up there playing soccer on the basketball court, but they do play soccer on the soccer fields. Hola, buenas tardes. And they do play basketball on the basketball courts sometimes, just not always, you know. So it's cool. But so you can see people just hanging, right? People just chilling. You just don't, I don't know, like some family recently went back to the States and they were like, well, I remember one of my sister-in-laws went to my hometown, and she's like, where's everybody at? What's wrong? Like, there's no one on the streets, right? What's the problem here? And it was just like, no, we're back in the U.S. This is just how it is here. So, yeah, there's cops in this town, sure. The smaller towns, no, not so much. There's honestly too many cops in these touristy towns. This isn't a touristy area we're in right now. So, this is the normal folk area, not the touristy central. I have shown you that before in some other videos. But a town like this that has a lot of money flowing and tourism activity does have more cops. And personally, I find the cops have been unusually corrupt this year. I see them pestering people. It's not like they're beating people up or shooting them or anything like in the States. It's just, you know, petty corruption, and that ticks me off. I don't like petty corruption. I don't like any corruption. It's just not how I roll. But hey, this is just what it is, right? And to those complaining about the thumbnail, I will change that after. The reason I put that thumbnail of Mariana doing Zumba down there is because I was going to take you guys downstairs and show you the Zumba, and as soon as I went downstairs, the signal was lost. So I wasn't just trying to be clickbait. I'll always pick the best thumbnail for a video, but I always try to make it contextual to the video. They really like their cycling here, so you'll see a lot of that too. A lot of cycling, and they get pretty into it. They spend a lot of money on their cycles. So yeah, I'll tell you what though, for those who are curious about, I know you're curious about the culture of hola, buenas tardes. I know you're curious. I know it's nothing that you're not just lascivious and want to see pretty girls. Like, you're just genuinely curious about the culture of Latin dance. So if you go to my Instagram /Gavin Syme, I'll try to post a video, because I was shooting some videos of the Zumba girls down there a little bit tonight. I'll try to post a Zumba video so you can see Mexican Zumba. I assume it's pretty much the same as US Zumba. But I'll try to post one to the Instagram later so you can see. I also took Sandra to town today. We were running some errands and we went and tried on all these cute outfits. So I was making videos of those too, because they just have lots of gorgeous, cute outfits. They're a lot less prudish about, well, pretty much everything down here, okay? So I'm just looking. I've not been to Monterey. I hung out with some people from Monterey a week ago and they were telling me how amazing it was. I think my brother's been to Monterey. Monterey it's still Mexico, guys. It's not like going to a Cabo or like a resort where you're not even really getting the Mexico experience. You're just getting the rich resort owner experience overcharging you. Like Monterey is considered a nice city. It has pretty good infrastructure, but it's still Mexico. It's still Mexico, and people really do. People really like it. But let's see here. We went to this birthday party last week, and for a 5-year-old. And of course, the thing is, what I've learned about making parties is they find a reason to make the party, and then they make a big party. So you have a 5-year-old's birthday party, and they have beer and tequila and 2 piñatas. There was no less than 5 live performers, and these were actually performers for the kids, right? They were like dressed in How to Train Your Dragon costumes, and they had this whole routine. So the kids, like at a 5-year-old's party, they just really like their fiestas, and so they had entertainers, they had serving staff. And this was just in an apartment complex in the central pool, right, where people hang out. But they organized all this and had this really nice party. And of course, the kid got presents and they had entertainers and music, but the party was really for everybody. And that was the idea, is it was just a way to get together. So, yes, Fiesta de Cumpleaños. Yes, I do seem happier in Mexico. I'm very sad still. Let's not forget about our prisoners, and I'm always thinking of the people I left behind, right? And I'm afraid for those who won't get out in time before the USA completely goes up in smoke. But constantly I'm just thinking about and talking to them often, you know, Jeff Winehouse, Jim Hamilton, you know, you got Schaefer Cox, you got all these people, and it just, the list goes on and on and on. And until our prisons are torn down, our walls are torn down, our government is torn down, we can't have any freedom in the USA. So, but yes, overall, I do feel safer and happier and much more free, of course, much more freedom down here. You know, it's just the way it is. It's the way it works here. So, you know, remember, people say America needs me. I tried for the USA for years. The USA has died, right? But this is still America. The American dream is far more alive down here than anything you can find in the USA. So you just keep trucking away. Yeah, I heard about that sad incident in the Brazilian prison. The prisons, the drug war, all of this stuff, right, was created by our government. And it's just pure madness. The drug war, putting all these people in prison, making everyone criminals. I don't know what really happened there, what all went down. It's horrible, horrible stuff. But it wouldn't be happening if it weren't for our governments. It wouldn't be happening if it weren't for their drug wars. It wouldn't be happening if it weren't for their abusive prisons that violate human rights, like eating candy, okay? So while every individual is accountable for their own actions, our governments are accountable for the foundation of all this, for the prison concentration camps, for the drug war violence. It's important to understand, people talk about the violence in Mexico, and there's far too much of it. It's outrageous. There's far too much in the USA. But almost all the violence is because of drug war. So whereas in the USA you have police shooting people, mass shootings that maybe were staged by government or maybe were real, you have all these crazy things happening in the USA, violence on the street, violence in schools. Here the violence isn't that way. People don't go into schools and malls and just shoot people randomly in Mexico. That's not how it works. That's never happened. There's not one incident that I know of a school shooting. Oh, I take that back. I think there was one school shooting where like one person died, and it was in a U.S.-run school, a U.S.-owned school from a U.S. company in Mexico. Is the only school shooting I believe that's ever happened down here. So you got to realize the culture's different. If you go back before the drug war started in earnest down here 15 or so years ago, way lower violence, right? The violence is specifically connected to the drug war, and the people here are starting to realize it, because it's not really a political issue. It's an issue of human rights. It's an issue of a government gone completely out of control, restricting and abusing and murdering and killing and imprisoning. And Mexico got on board with the drug war because they sold out. The politicians who did it sold out to the U.S. politicians, and the U.S. loves their drug war. They love destabilizing countries, the drug war is all about destabilization, control, violence, and fear. And that's how they abuse us. So yeah, it's crazy. La guerra de drogas is local. No es libertad, no es respetan de humanos derechos. La guerra de drogas is violencia, is local. I don't know. I've made my point. Okay, where else? I'll wrap this up soon. Just kind of wanted to show you guys what goes on the street. Just for those of you that like actively follow the channel and watch these videos, I probably won't take this down, but I'll probably unlist this later. So, yeah, I mean, look at them. Phoenix cop watch arrested. They arrest them. And of course the police abuse here, right? It happens, but it's so different. Like, until you've been here, it's hard to understand. People say, oh, you won't get away with that kind of activism in Mexico. It's like, yeah, you actually do way more than that. Like, when Mexicanos do activism, they do way more than that. When you film a cop here, they don't freak out on you and start pointing guns at you. In fact, police here don't shoot people on the streets. That's not how it works. They don't shoot civilians. There's drug war stuff that goes down with the drug war garbage. But if a cop shoots someone on the streets, like in the States, you could have a park like this, right? Thanks, all. Appreciate it. You could have a park like this, and at a time like this, I mean, you could find probably a dozen videos of similar situations, and some guy, maybe he's drunk, or maybe he's just has his headphones in, right? Maybe he does something to the cops, and in the middle of all this, the cops would shoot or strangle or beat him to death, and nothing would stop it, right? And guess what? The cops wouldn't even be charged with a crime. Well, because they were afraid, right? If that happened here, first of all, it wouldn't happen. If a cop was beating a kid on the side of the road here, the 50 guys that are in this park would be on that cop so fast, stopping him and pulling him off, that it would be pretty remarkable, I think. It doesn't mean they'll stand up to all abuse. It doesn't mean they stop every extortion, but it's just not tolerated. The culture that police can use violence against people like that, it's just not okay. It's not how it works. So it's a very different mindset in the way that they look at it and in what they expect here. And the key, whether here or there, is to get people to stand up together, to love their neighbor, to stand up for human rights, and to resist. They do resist more down here. Not enough, right? I mean, if the people here were resisting as much as we should be, there would be no drug war, just like there would be no drug war anywhere in the world, because it's a fraud. It's a scam. Es libertad falso, es seguridad falso. And it would be stopped if we really knew how to stand up for ourselves. Okay, let's see what we got going here. We're still playing soccer. This looks like the girls' soccer team over here. Everybody's having fun. That's good. It's different. You know, you don't have this, there's not this tension when you walk the streets in the same way. Sure, there's areas of Mexico that are bad, right? I mean, you know, Guerrero State, Acapulco. I mean, there's these places that are really struggling because of the drug war and what it's done to those communities and those cities. But you just don't see the same kind of tension and fear in the normal communities. People are doing their thing. They're not always worried about getting in trouble or arrested, or do they have a permit. Sure, it doesn't mean the government will never come around and pester you and say you need a permit, but the aggressiveness, the intensity is just so different. Okay, I'm just looking at your comments here, guys, while you watch the cars go by. What does Mexico do to Americans without passports who want to leave for good? Well, America for good. I know I keep having to repeat this, but I'm in America. Mexico is America. The entire American continent is America. The USA is not America. It's a small part of America. So I just have to keep reminding us of that, because it's just a reminder of our brainwashing. But Places like Sonora State are very open to people just coming across and chilling without visas and stuff like that. But officially, you are supposed to have a visa residency, and it's not unheard of. I mean, especially Trump is actually bullying the Mexican government, and they seem to be falling for it into abusing the immigrants more from the South, because we want to enforce our fascism in the state. So what happened is the Trump's goons have been telling Mexico, hey, stop letting people travel so freely from the South, or we're raising tariffs, right? And so we'll see how all that shakes out and what happens, because they're kind of just going for that kind of garbage, because politicians will be politicians. It makes me sick when people abuse human rights for money. But generally speaking, you know, the people are left alone. And if you're a gringo in central Mexico, I mean, I've never been asked for my papers by, well, police officers aren't even allowed to ask for your papers. It would have to be an immigration official. But if you go down south and stuff, they're starting to pull more crap, immigration checkpoints, things like that. Sonora State is kind of like a free zone almost, so you can pretty much just go in there and hang out. It's a good place to cross. Then the Hollies Crossing, very laid back. The border's open pretty much, so you can come in really without any restriction, and then you can get a visa. You generally, unless there might be a guy, if you go to the visa station, there might be a guy who can get you a visa if you don't have a passport for 6 months, because there's what they call gestores that hang out around those kind of places, and they might be able to help you out by talking to the right person for a fee, of course. You know how this bureaucracy works. But in general, I mean, it's good if you have a visa, which is very easy to get if you have a passport. You give them like $20 and they'll give you a 6-month visa at the border. It's not a big deal if you want to be legit, you know, and not have to worry about it, because you don't want that hanging over you, you know. So it's not difficult to migrate to Mexico, but if you want to officially get like permanent residency and stuff like that, sure, there's BS, and it bears some research. We have a video on the channel. If you look on the channel page, there's I think it's the Escaping the USA. There's some videos where Nathan and I have talked about the logistics and the mechanics of residency and things like that. So just keep that in mind, and check it out if you're really interested in coming down. But by all means, like, if you have to get out, leave, passport or not. And I'm going to be doing some more videos on your options on this in the future. But passport or not, like, if you need to get out to stay out of the concentration camp, just, like, you know, cross over somewhere tranquil and figure out where you need to be, right? I know it's not the ideal situation, but no one should walk into a gas chamber if they don't have to, you know. Yes, ICE is fully unconstitutional. All immigration restriction is fully unconstitutional. The immigration affords the government zero authority of any kind whatsoever over restricting your travels across the border, unless it was an actual military invasion. You don't get to call someone you don't like an invasion just because. An invasion is a defined term. It's people coming in with force of arms to conquer you, invade you, rob you, pillage you, etc. And it has no effect whatsoever over people immigrating. But we've done other videos on that as well. Yeah, Baja's a free zone. Okay, cool. So in free zones, I can't really tell. Español de Gavin es perfecto. Sí, es muy perfecto. Yo hablo mucho español. Habla 2 o 3 palabras, amigos. Es muy fácil. So, yeah, the free zone is kind of an unofficial term, but Sonora, Baja, these are areas where if you need to get out of the states, you can pretty much cross over. Because it's important to understand, when you cross the border, occasionally they'll stop and look in your car when you cross the border, especially if it looks like you're importing stuff into sell, right? But it's different. Like, the people when you cross the border, like in Sonora in particular, the Hollies Crossing, no one checks your papers at the border. There's not a station where they check your papers like when you come into the USA. You drive like 10 miles inland, and there's a little office on the side of the road where you stop and get a visa. And at that point, ideally, you should have your passport. And I'm not sure if there's a way you can get an official visa that way without a passport or not. I mean, of course, you could look into something like asylum or refugee status or something like that if you really were could not go back to the U.S. and you wanted to take that route. But that's a whole other animal. I mean, it's a lot. That's not a quick tour. That's a big deal, right? And it gets more complicated. But it certainly can be done. It's certainly easier than doing it in the U.S. the way we treat people there, you know. So, but free zones like Baja and Sonora and things like that are a good place for if you need to get out, right? You don't know what you want to do to kind of get your feet under you, because you're not likely to be pestered for papers as a gringo coming down just to hang out, you know, rent an apartment or hotel room or something like that. You know what I mean? So, all right. Let's see here. Yeah, leave the States as soon as you can. Australia's pretty bad with immigration, from what I hear. And yeah, I think if you actually want to get like permanent residency, like officially, if you're not like getting out now kind of thing, and you want to actually move here, what you actually do is you go to the Mexican consulate in the USA before you leave. You have an interview, and they basically give you an approval. And you're supposed to have like $1,000, $1,200 a month income. They don't always enforce this rigidly, but you are supposed to be able to illustrate an income. If you can't do that, the 6-month visas is what people do, and you can get those, pretty much as many of them as you want, but it's still a hassle because you got to go up to the border and get a new visa. You're supposed to actually leave the country and get a new visa, but people that do 6-month visas to be legit, they'll literally just go out, turn around, come back in and get a new visa. So if you live up near the borders, north or south, that's easy, right? But if you live central, it's quite a drive. So it's so stupid that we have to do any of this stuff. Like, fascism really has made life hard no matter where you go in the world. Sure, there's a lot more freedom in Mexico, but the influence of fascism is everywhere. The U.S. influence. The U.S. really wants to make Latin America abuse everyone like it does. It's not working entirely, but yeah, thank you all. Thank you all. So yeah, it's nice. Pick your climate, pick your culture, pick your state. It's up to you, right? Where I'm at here, it's probably 75 degrees right now, and it's just nice, right? People are doing their thing. If you're down on the coastal areas, there's going to be more. Hola, buenas tardes. If you're on the coastal areas, there's going to be more heat, right? The beaches are beautiful. The beach culture is really cool, but it's definitely going to be hotter. So if you're not used to humidity, I don't think I could live on the beach all the time. I think it would be too humid and hot for me. But it is super bonita, super bonita. Es super hermosa la playa. La playa en Mexico es super hermosa, es super bonita. La agua es bonita. La playa es bonita, la mujeres es bonita, todo bonita. Sí, así es. Okay, let's see here. In terms of other Mexican YouTubers down here, and if you guys watch their channels, tell them to reach out to me. I know some of these other YouTubers, they do some great videos. I think, to be honest, I think they're kind of scared sometimes, the other YouTubers, to collaborate with Gavin, because I'm so much more controversial. I take on issues that are a lot more complicated. So a lot of people from the States, they come down here and do tourism videos and stuff, and they're beautiful. I mean, it's cool stuff. But while I do some of those, we take on the issues a little more on this channel and talk about the logistics and the realities and what the world is doing and what Mexico is doing in the United States. And you know, those of us from the USA in particular, we're trained that anyone who speaks up and speaks out, we kind of scoot away from them because they're dangerous, because we have a culture where no one's supposed to speak out. We're just supposed to do what we're told. And so I think the biases that a lot of YouTubers have, they're afraid. And I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. I'm just saying that other YouTubers, a lot of times, is this feeling I get where, you know, maybe I'm a little too intense in the things I talk about for some of these guys, which I'm eager to be proven wrong at any time. I'll happily do a collaboration with the other YouTubers that are down here in Mexico. So if you follow their channels, absolutely say, hey, go see Gavin in Central Mexico, make some videos. You know, I even have lots of extra gear. We'll go out and do something cool, right? They can hit me up, and it's good. So, all right, just looking. I think we're going to wrap it up. It's going to be, Zumba's going to be over. No, it's not than Phoenix. Most of Mexico is going to be cooler than Phoenix. For example, I'm on the Central Plateau up here, right? This is Querétaro State, Mexico State, Hidalgo. We're kind of up on the plateau. So it's higher. I'm at 6,000, 7,000 feet. It basically never freezes. It can happen in the winter, but there's usually like December or January. There's like a month in the winter, right? Where you might run the heaters at night. Not freezing, but turn the heater on. It's getting chilly. And then it never really gets above probably 100 degrees in the hottest months. And then you come into the rainy season and it cools down, which is kind of where we're at now. A lot of evenings at this time of year is there's rain, and it cools the air down. You know, you usually have an hour of rain in the evening, not so much tonight. But that is pretty normal stuff down here. So, hang on, turning that camera around. So it's good. It's all good. But you can kind of pick your climate, right? The jungles are beautiful. The Huasteca, absolutely gorgeous, but it's going to be a little hotter. The coast is a little hotter yet. Is it hotter than Phoenix? No, but in the summer, in the hot days, in the spring and summer, it can get really hot, and there's more humidity because it's the ocean. So if you're a northerner like me and you're not used to humidity, it can be more of a struggle. I love visiting the beach, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if I'd want to live there full time. I've thought about getting a beach house because for a few $100s a month, I could probably get a beach house down in Michoacan or Veracruz, and we could, go in on it with the family and go down and visit the beach. That's something I do hope to do more often. I do hope to actually do more travel. I mean, we've been dealing with logistics, getting settled, trying to deal with all this stuff. We're down here, my whole family left, basically overnight with everything we could carry, 5 kids, a wife, and so there's been impression in that, dealing with that and trying to figure out how to manage and how to get settled, trying to learn the language, and my hope is this will continue to get easier. So your prayers and thoughts are appreciated for sure. But anyways, anybody, what time is it? I can't see my phone's not showing me the time. And if I exit, because I always use my phone for the time. So yeah, I don't know what time it is. Somebody shout me the time, all right? Dígame. ¿Qué es el tiempo? Dígame. All right, I might lose it. 8:14 Central Time. That makes sense. The light looks about right for 8:14 to me. So 9:14 in South Carolina would be 8:14 Mexico City time. So we're good. We're good. All right, I'm walking again. I'm gonna head back down to the other square. So you may lose me for a minute. You know what? You may lose me for a minute, but we'll see if the Zumba girls are done downtown. This is the way it is. This is a long video. I never stream this one. This one definitely. This has been so random, guys. So if you like random videos like this, let me know. But I don't want to clutter up the feed too much here. I'm trying to keep the wind out of the microphones here by covering them with my hands. All right, working on that. Where can I go? I gotta go down one of these side streets. And to do that, there's concrete buildings. And when you go in between the concrete buildings, you lose signal. Because concrete. That's how it works. Wind, fire, ice, rain, and power. And tacos. Yeah, somebody asked what my favorite food in Mexico is. It definitely would be tacos. I mean, there's lots of varieties and types of tacos. Tacos pastor, tacos de bistec, probablemente is mi favorita. Let's go down Avenido Augusto. I can't even, no, I'm not even gonna try. Okay, I'm gonna go down the center of the street. It's a quiet street. I'm hoping if I go down the center of the street, the signal will maintain. So let me know how we're doing. Buena suerte. Yes, that indeed does mean good luck. Buena suerte. Gracias. So, esta es la calle de la pueblita, de la ciudad. No más sol. Es próxima buenas noches. Buenas tardes es el día. Con sol es buenas tardes. Hola, perro. Con sol es buenas tardes y sin sol es buenas noches. Y mañana is buenas, they're gonna go this way, is buenos dia. But tomorrow morning is confusing because tomorrow morning is mañana en la mañana. Y no tacos de tripa, no partes interno, no es comida para gringos. En realidad, de hecho, no es comida para humanos. Tacos cabeza, tacos triple, es comida para mascotas y perros, no es comida para humanos. Son locos. Sí. Tacos de bistec es ok. Tacos de pescado, de camarón. Sí, así es. Pero no. Tacos de triple. Hola, buenas tardes. Alright, we're heading back down to the square. You guys still see me? Maybe this street has better service because I'm looking toward the hill, which is probably where the towers are. Buenas tardes. This wind is probably killing my microphones, people. So, desculpa that. Alright. Almost back to the square. Girls should be done with Zumba pretty soon. Walking. Quarter. There's the church. People getting out of church. There's usually a church. Each square usually has a church. So generally, the church is to a large extent represented. I mean, the square is to a large extent like the grounds around the church. But it's a public space, not a private one. There's a van, a Chevy 20. All right, we're back to this square. Look at that, we've been wandering all over the place. Starting to lose some of our light. Taco de Ojo. No! Tacos de Ojo. Tontos. Tacos de Ojo. Okay, let's see. They might be finished. I think they're about done down here. Yes, marijuana is legal down here. I don't know if they've established rules for like making it and growing it and selling it, but it was deregulated. The people disputed it. They filed amparos against it, and it was unconstitutional to restrict it. And said it was unconstitutional to restrict it, and they made that argument, and there was like, once there's like 3 amparos that the court agrees with, the law is nullified. So basically the prohibition in the general sense on marijuana was removed. Gavin, your wife is hot, no disrespect. None taken, gracias. Es muy caliente. Okay. I'm sure Zumba's almost over, because somebody just told me it has to be like 8:20. So I'm just gonna chill here, and we'll see. Maybe I can leave the poster after all, right? Because if Zumba gets out and I can actually show the girls from Zumba, then that context will be established, right? Sometimes when you make a video, you actually want to plan you plan the video around the poster frame sometimes, you know, or the title, right? Because you don't want to let people down on that, and you want to make a narrative from start to finish. What is our narrative today? I always like to narrative. The narrative today is I just wanted to show you guys kind of the street culture here. I like to do that now and then. The town square culture, the way people are interacting just on a normal weeknight, right? And how they're interacting with each other, and what they're doing, and how much more, dare I say, life there is. It's a lot different, right? So I know this video is kind of long and rambling and not super on point. It's just meant to be long and rambling and not super on point, and just talk about what we see here and how different the culture is, because people aren't getting the reality of the culture from US news and media and tourist resorts, right? They're not really understanding what Mexico is, what's going on here, you know, and that's a big deal. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do in my videos, is aside from all the other things and issues we talk about on a global level of human rights, just to show people like what it's like in these places we go, because we're so brainwashed in the USA to think that we're the freest and the best and the greatest, because that's how they keep us there. If they make us afraid to leave, well, then we'll stay there and not realize that the rest of the world in most places has more freedom than we do. Yes, and people, there's a lot more, the family is a lot more sacred in Mexico. People generally speaking are much more friendly. Just the culture of, like, you know, you've seen me, almost everybody would pass, right? We're saying hi on the streets, because I'm the weird guy with the camera, right? But like, you say hello, you say good day, you know, it's just what you do. It's just what you do. So it's interesting. There's so much propaganda coming out of Mexico. You know, the Mexican president's a communist. No, he's not. He's not a communist. Mexico is a far more capitalist country. Look, I don't vote, guys, in Mexico, right? I'm not saying the Mexican president, AMLO, is great, because I'm not involved in that. I'm involved in the human rights aspect, not the politics of it. And the truth is, like, yeah, I'm disappointed that he's allowing the USA to continue kicking Mexico around, abusing immigrants, that people's rights are still being violated. But this whole, like, he's a communist, that's complete US propaganda. The USA, I got news for you guys that haven't left. the USA is the socialist country, and in the future, it's the one more likely to look like Venezuela. The USA is vastly more socialist than virtually every Latin American country. So when people say, oh look, the Hondurans are coming here because socialism ruined their country, no, Honduras isn't a socialist country. Not even close compared to the USA. The Hondurans are coming to the US because they heard our propaganda thinking it was good, and our government, there's actually emails that were leaked from Hillary Clinton of our government undermining their government to break their country apart. All right, so like we directly intervened in a lot of these Latin American countries to ruin the peace and stability in their countries, and then we say how dare they came here, right? So on the one hand, the loyalist says, if you don't like it, leave, right? But if people actually leave and try to come to the USA because they've been tricked into thinking it's actually good, people are like, why don't you go back and fix your own country? I mean, fascists know no end to their ignorance. They don't actually have real arguments about anything, so they just rave like lunatics and say that their fascism somehow is freedom. All right. Thank you for the kind words. Let's see, man, I'm like running my battery down here. This has been a long stream. So yeah, it's ridiculous that people think they're patriots because they worship the dictator and the state. Patriots tear down walls, they don't build them. Patriots resist immigration restriction, they don't build them. The real patriots these days are the people that are actively interfering with ICE, right, to keep them from arresting illegal immigrants, because there's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. The entire concept that you can be illegal for existing on a place on earth that God created for beneficial use of all people equally, the very idea, and I know not everybody believes as me, but a lot of people saying that the immigrants should be abused, that they should be controlled, that the ICE is good, that the border wall is good. The very idea of saying that people should have their kids taken, their families, their property, they should be deported, they should have their lives put in jeopardy because they live without a permission slip from the government is so anti-Christ and so anti-freedom that it shouldn't even have to be explained. Like if I have to explain to someone that if you think that immigrants should be in prison because they don't have permission from government to live, then you have no business calling yourself a freedom lover or a patriot, because you're delusional. Like you're literally the epitome of a statist if you think you need permission from the state to exist. That's fascism, that's socialism. And the reality is the people that want immigration restriction, they want to say, oh, they're coming here to steal our stuff. That's BS. The citizens take way more social programs than the immigrants. The immigrants put back in more money than they take out. And the immigrants are far more hard workers and less socialist in most cases than the culture of the USA. The socialists are the people that want to restrict immigration. That's the NWO narrative, and they've used reverse psychology to convince people if you support turning your country into a prison, that makes you a patriot, and if you're against it, you're for the NWO. Guys, I got news for you. The NWO the globalist elite never want borders to be open and free. I mean, like, what a genius idea to convince the dumbed-down sheep of our culture that the globalist elite want open borders. That's never, ever been the case. The elite fascists are always have been, and always will be the ones closing borders, murdering people, imprisoning people, and enslaving the populace. It's always been that way. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out, right? This is not rocket science. This is fundamental economics and common sense. When you control immigration, you're controlling wages, economics, and you're creating a socio-fascist state. When you have an open, free travel, you have economics, you have trade, you have travel. It's the foundation of freedom. That's why the Founding Fathers went to war over a king who dared to restrict immigration. And it's in the Declaration of Independence, guys, as one of the objections. That's why the Founding Fathers said the government has no authority over immigration. That's why they forbid it in the Constitution, right? I know we always go here, right? But hey, I'm in Mexico. This always comes up. And we're just chit-chatting. We're just talking about the realities of the world we live in. The world's a madhouse. It's the nature of the beast. But, all right, let's see here. Bueno, sun setting. We're getting there. I think Zumba might have actually ended down here in the little garage down here. Ask the Mexican people about the law in the state of Tabasco. The people of the state of Tabasco can no longer protest in the streets. That's funny. I don't know if such a law exists, but if it is, it's totally ignored. Few cultures are better at their protests than Latin cultures. So yeah, that's definitely not the reality of it. That's the USA. People are always projecting the USA because sometimes these dumb laws exist in Mexico, but they're not enforced. Like there's very few things that will get you 10 or 20 years in prison. To get 10 or 20 years in prison in Mexico, people are probably dead at that point, you know, if you've gotten to that stage. So that's just the way it is. It's the way it is. People protest here, and it's good. If Mexico, I love this question. If Mexico is so great, why do they migrate? I love it when fascists are so, like, we're so brainwashed, right? We're so brainwashed into trying to pretend that we're great and we're free and everything's good. More Mexicans are leaving the USA than coming in, right? Now, there are a lot of other Latin Americans that the US has helped ruin their countries that are coming up. But, yeah, no, and certainly there's people from Mexico that try to go to the United States, of course, but yeah, more are leaving than coming in, because even the people that go there to work because they think they can make more money, they recognize that there's way more freedom here, and they often return here because it's like drawing the short straw to have to go to the US to work and make more money. Okay, so yeah. But in any case, regarding laws about protests, if such a law exists, it will definitely be soundly ignored by the people. They're good at ignoring that here. If a law exists against protesting, I'm sure the people will be protesting it quite heavily very soon. So, but I haven't heard of any such law. So if somebody has a link, send it to me. It's probably not real. It's probably being misinterpreted in some way. So usually when things like that are going on, it's not the real deal. So hang on, Sandra is. I'm waiting for her. We'll get Sandra. I don't see her. If I go down there, the problem is if I go down there, I'm going to lose my signal here. What little signal I have left. And why am I referring to people asking logical questions as fascists? It's not a logical question to ask Gavin. If Mexico's so great, why do people want to leave and come to the States? That's not a logical question. That's a propaganda question. And people asking that, if you did it innocently, I respect that. But the reality is, if you're asking that question, you're trying to validate your position that the slavery you live under in the USA is better. It's a negative point. It's saying, look, it can't really be good there, otherwise they would not want to come here. And it's a question based on ignorance, and it's a question based on believing that we're better than other people instead of actually researching. That would be a logical question. But I don't mean to beat up on anyone. I just get this kind of questions from trolls all the time, and it's like, oh boy, this again. You know what I mean? So, okay. Where's Sandra? Sandra! I'm trying to get her up here. Looks like Zumba's done. Okay, I'm gonna go down. You guys might lose me for a minute. She's got to be down there somewhere. Okay, let's see if I can maintain signal. Let me know if we lose it. There we go. All right. All the people in my YouTube stream wanted to see you girls doing Zumba.
You should got here like 15 minutes ago.
No, I tried to go down there, but as soon as I go down, I lose my signal.
Oh, it feels so much better up here anyway.
Okay, show us your Zumba moves.
Which ones are you going to make do?
So let's see if they're the same as the US Zumba moves. What are we doing there? Things are getting weird here.
Something must have been on my ow.
You guys. Okay, go ahead. There we go. That looks like a proper. Is Zumba the same in the US as it is here? Do you watch US videos for?
Gavin.
Say hello. Say hello to the United States.
Hello.
Mariana
Yes.
speaks very good English.
How are you?
I'm sure I can get you some dates if you want it.
Okay.
Okay, gracias. Okay, there. I showed you Zumba. Now we can end the stream, right? Everybody see the Zumba? I'm assuming Zumba's pretty cute in the States too, right? I've never been to Zumba in the States, but yeah, that was Mariana. She teaches Zumba down here. It's $1 per class. I think it's about $5, because I think my mom and my sister go to Zumba sometimes. And I gotta tell you, like, here's a secret for you men, if you want to send your wives out to Zumba, it's very good for the trasero, okay? Es un bueno ejercicio por el trasero. Entiendo? Es muy bien. Entiendo? Entiendo? Do I need to translate that? Or are we good? We good? All right. We good? Okay, well, Zumba is done. And for those of you not understanding, trasero is the butt. So yeah, those exercises, like it's a good booty dance, and they like their booty in Latin America, right? And the girls they know how to be feminine here. It's very nice. There's a balance and a moderation and everything, of course, but they're a lot less prudish down here. Doesn't mean they're all a bunch of sickos or anything like that. That's kind of what the U.S. culture is. We like that there, but no, they're actually. I mean, they're in some way, but they know how to be feminine. The men are to have here. So we have at least. I think we have at least a couple people that are in love with you now.
Okay. Please, kisses.
Looking for trouble.
It was un caliente mexicana. I'm like hot Mexican. Please give me sex.
Oh my! Try to behave. You have to be a good example for all the people,
yes,
right?
yes.
So like, try to keep it in moderation here, okay? Yeah. Like,
Okay. Yes, no
like-
sex.
yeah.
Kisses.
Only kisses. That's all they do here. Woo!
I think you're gonna break the concrete with that.
¿Está bien? You're making her carry. Is that how we lift weights here? All right. These ladies think they're so tough. All right. I showed you the ladies of Zumba.
Zumba ladies. Come on, Sandra. Hola, personas.
There's 3 of them. Yeah, there they are.
Hola, personas.
Personas.
US
Personas.
personas.
Okay, guys. So this was a long stream, very long, but I showed you the streets. I showed you some of the culture and what people do in the square, and just how much more familiar they are down here in terms of just hanging out and doing things. And I even fulfilled the poster image and showed you the Zumba girls. All right. And now everybody's happy now, because what happened is I put a photo of you on my stream as like the image, and then people were upset because they didn't see you in the stream, because they probably just came to the stream because there was girls in the stream. Because men, here's a secret about men in the USA: they're every bit the suckers that men in Mexico are.
That's a secret. That's a secret.
Yeah, they get into a lot of trouble that way. Okay, adios.
Adios. Hasta luego.
Okay, guys, have a good night.
Just need to say hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Hasta luego. Buenas noches. ¿Quieres comida?
No chi. No chi.